Here, as usual, a little bit later. We had a few technical issues with our internet, and I am all dressed up in the Islay attire. So if you are ever out with us on tour, you'll notice we're always wearing usually whiskey branded clothing. Hi. And so I'm wearing my Bowmore whiskey distillery top and my Lafroig cap, which is quite amusing because I got it for free in the shop. If anyone's interested, I got it for free. And the reason why I got it for free. Now look at this, because this is just absolute genius, right? So on the back of the cap, because it's obviously it's an alcoholic beverage, so it says you should say drink responsibly, if you can see that. But in this case, it says drink responsibly. So drink responsibly. So they had all these hats made, and they were spelled incorrectly. And I thought that was funny for an alcoholic place's cap to be spelt wrong on the back. But anyway, they weren't allowed to sell them. So I got this one for free. So I'm going to be wearing my Lafroig cap because Lafroig is arguably one of my favourite distilleries in Scotland. They do one of the best tours. So I'm just going to wait for everybody to join in. Thanks to everybody on Instagram just now. And hi, Margie. Hello, Ontario in Canada. And good evening, Amanda. So this is my last alcoholic beverage for the next basically 4 months, because I start a very special diet tomorrow, which I'm not allowed any alcohol whatsoever during the 4-week period. So I shall just be sitting here with my glass of water, pretending to drink alcohol for the next couple of weeks. So still join in. We're all still in lockdown. I think we're in lockdown to the end of May. So before we start, Slange, this is the last Slange of the next, basically, 4 months for me. Just to let you know, the alcohol of choice tonight is a pineapple and a raspberry cider. And I've always had a bit of expensive taste when it comes to alcohol. So I don't like the cheap ciders. I can't drink them, or cheap wine. I can't drink it. It just makes me ill. So I go for the more expensive brands. And it's so much nicer. I don't get headaches. Every single night I've been with you guys, I've not had one headache because I'm drinking proper stuff. I'm not drinking over too much sugar, because that's usually what gives you that awful headache. So I try to avoid the cheaper alcoholic beverages. And there you have it. So Slanjava, good health to you all. And we can start the ball rolling. Hi, Ian. Hi, Mike. Hi, Bonnie. Again, also from Canada. I hope you like my hat. It looks a bit odd here on Instagram. It looks like we call them Neds here, because the kind of chavvy people wear their caps like that. It's like a fashion. I'm like trying not to look like that. So there you have it. So tonight, the point of the discussion is to talk about Islay, and I thought it would be a really good chance to talk about Islay because it's come up quite a few times every single night. And I thought it would also be nice to show you what else the island has to offer, aside from the famous whiskey that everybody knows Islay for. Also, obviously, any culture, history, heritage questions about Islay, please throw them in. I'm here for that tonight. So it'd be great to get everything started. So this was kind of inspired. The reason why I'm talking about Islay in particular tonight, aside from the fact I've mentioned it quite a few times, is that we were supposed to be on Islay right now on a tour. We tend to start our Islay, kick off our Islay season in April, just before the festival, the Islay Fish in May, just so that we can get there before it just gets really chaotic. And we were supposed to be, I say we, it was Helmut who was supposed to be there on tour, a nice private tour. He was supposed to be going to Campbellton and to Islay. And then obviously that has had to be cancelled. So I thought it's just very poignant moment for us because Islay is so important to us and what we do. It's also a place, it's like our second home, not necessarily because we spend so much time there. I mean, arguably we would spend more time on Skye or even in the Speyside region of the whiskey region compared to Islay, but it's just somewhere that we all, in our family setting, all have a very strong connection to. It does feel like a second home whenever we're there. We just know it. Everybody feels at ease. It just has that feel. And we're not alone, I should say that, in feeling that sort of sense of just calm and just, oh, this is my place. Thousands upon thousands of people from all over the world, the moment they get to Islay, that is what they feel, honestly. And I know people, Gary, if Gary's watching, Gary goes all the time. He was one of my first ever Outlander tour guests, and him and his wife from Canada go over to Islay, at least from what I can gather, at least once a year because they love it so much. And whenever we take our guests over there, you just feel this kind of sense that anything that you ever had, any weight that was on your shoulders is just instantly lifted. It just has that kind of spiritual feeling about it. I would say actually probably more than Skye. For the people who go, it's just more people tend to go to Skye because Skye is probably more well known as a Scottish beauty spot. But you know, from people that we take to Islay, they tend to get that feeling. So if you haven't been, guys, it is definitely worth a visit, and especially with us, we'll take you. But if you can't go with us, you can just, there's a number of ferries which will take you there. In fact, I was talking to the last tour I got to do this year. I had two lovely, beautiful girls, if you're watching, from Northern Ireland. And actually, they have a tour that they can do, a wee rib excursion. I can't remember where it was in Ireland just now, but you can actually visit Islay from Ireland, and they run a boat a couple of times a week in the main season, which I felt incredibly unfair because it's about an hour there and an hour back compared to us. We have a 2.5 hour rough journey to get to Islay from the mainland in Scotland. So you always feel a little outdone by those Irish getting to a Scottish Ireland island. I can't say that now. Getting to Scottish island quicker than we can. So is there any questions before I carry on blethering? I think it's always good to see if anyone has any questions about my favourite island before we really get started. Anything you want to get out there before we go on. Basically an excuse just for me to take a sip of my pineapple and raspberry cider. And while we do that, I'm going to turn around because on the back of my shirt tonight, I don't know if you can see it, that's a picture of Islay on my back. So that's what the island looks like.
Supposed to look like a witch.
It's supposed to look like a witch. You can see that. Hold on a wee second. We're just getting some questions in. Hi, or buenas noches, Carmen in Sevilla. Sevilla. Am I saying that right? I've got hi Jennifer, and thanks Bonnie, my wee hat. We've got Mike who says Glenfiddich is a good stuff, lol. No, I can't really say anything bad about Glenfiddich, to be fair. We don't know. We were supposed to have a tour, Mike, actually just off a slight tangent here, with a whisky association. We often take several whisky associations around, and we had one planned for July of this year, and we're supposed to visit mainly Speyside distilleries, which includes obviously Glenfiddich. And Glenfiddich were going to put us up and give the group, including us, a free cask strength bottle, which is worth around £100. So I was really bummed if I would be really bummed rather if we can't do that, because I'll never say no to free whiskey, especially £100 bottle. Hugh, hi Hugh, another local. I was at Lefroy's anniversary in 2015, free drams all day. When they brought out the cake, I had an empty tumbler. One of the guys came up to me with a bottle. Would you like a dram, sir? Yeah. Kill for one, mate. There'll be no killing the day, mate. It's our birthday. Yes. That's so funny. Ha, ha, ha. That's a very good joke, though. Tom just coming in. Nice hat. Thank you for my hat comments this evening. Hope you aren't giving out about the Irish. Just caught the end of what you just said. No, just you guys always have it slightly easier to get to some of our islands. You just have to get on a wee rib. I mean, fair enough, I know you're down in the south. This is in the north. Gosh, the girls told me because they searched it up. It's actually where she's from. The one girl. She can't remember. Amanda, are you drinking Old Moot Cinder? Cinder, is that not what you get in a fire normally? I am actually. It is Old Moot. You're supposed to say Old Moot, isn't it, or Old Mout? It's Old Moot, I think. They did an advert.
It's only the Australians who go on about it.
It's not Australia. It's New Zealand. Okay. It's New Zealand. Come on.
Oh, Kiwis again.
Kiwis. Okay, so we've got some fighting talk in here. What's your favourite whiskey? My favourite whiskey is gin. No, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. My favourite was the one I brought out the other night. Tobermory actually is my favourite. I don't know why. It's just a bit more palatable to me. Then we've got a Balvenie fan here. Balvenie rules. Another Speyside malt. Fighting talk, that. Mike just said, never say no to free whiskey. Nope. Never say no. Bonnie, is your favourite Glenmorangie? You say it. So a lot of people say it wrong, apparently. They'll say Glenmorangie. But people who are in the know will tell you that it's Glenmorangie, which is Glenmore, like more orangey. Glenmore orangey. Think about it like that. not Glenmorangie. That's wrong. We've got Crystal coming in. Glendronach is my current fave. You guys, from what I'm seeing, apart from Hugh here, he's coming in with the Laphroaig 10, which is a good one. We've got Still Scotland Photography here. Laphroaig's also one of your favorite. Yeah, see, I'm wearing my Laphroaig hat. I'll go into Laphroaig in a minute. Once you start, actually, I prefer, even though I like the Tobermory, I actually prefer peated whiskies compared to non-peated whiskies. That's just my personal preference, because I think it takes, I don't know, there's something more about it. And I know Helmut next door, he'll probably agree. He's probably more of a peated fan now than he would have been. So peated is like you kind of start off with the easy baby whiskies, and then you start edging your way up towards the peat. And that's why Islay is so amazing, because it is the home of the peated whiskey. Helmut, do we have any Octomore left somewhere? Probably. I think we probably do have some Octomore. The Octomore is a Bruichladdich whiskey, and it's the most peated and very young. They have them very young, and usually whenever we go, we bring whatever new edition of the Octomore they have. But let's just quickly see. We've got some folks loving Laphroaig. We've got, if we're on Islay, the island is Islay. Bowmore is, yeah, they sometimes say Bowmore. Bowmore is actually how you'd say it properly. Bowmore. But I'm not from there, so I just say Bowmore. I think that's fair. It's like, I don't know. It'd be like me trying to pronounce something without having that language exactly. So I'm kind of saying it in English, whereas they're saying it closer to the Gaelic origin. Does that make sense? So let's start off. So let's just go through the kind of basic whiskey tour, or basic whiskey experience that we do on the island. So if anyone's watching, this would be my advice to you. And in fact, Helmut was mentioning there's actually a guy who's just started doing a tuk-tuk, wasn't it, Helmut? Yeah. It's like a little bike thing, and he ferries you between all the different distilleries. Lots of people try and walk it, but last time I was there, I actually gave a guy a lift, an Australian guy a lift, because the weather kind of opened and he didn't realise he'd be walking so far back. But they've got a wee tuk-tuk, so you can do all these things. There is a little whiskey trail, so you can do everything on foot, or you can get one of the taxis, or you can use a tour company like myself or others. I wouldn't recommend wanting to drive while on Islay and doing this, because it just takes away from that experience. Nobody wants to be, considering it is such a small island, it's not like a cab is going to be that expensive. And some of the distilleries, especially down Laphroaig, Lagavulin, Ardbeg, they're all quite close to one another. So you could technically walk them easily, or I wouldn't recommend drinking on a bike either. But certainly the other side, you might want to use a cab or some sort of other facility. That would be my recommendation. If you're doing it yourself, do not hire a car and try to do it yourself, unless you're happy and you don't like whiskey and you're happy to be the designated driver. But there's just so much to try, and there's so many whiskies that you can only get, like distillery exclusives, that you couldn't get anywhere else in the world. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it's always good to try something before you buy it. And if you're driving, you can't try it. You can only try it when you go back, and then maybe you have to go back, and it just makes things very, 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 very complicated. So that would be my advice. But if you come with us, we do things in a specific order that we have found to be the most effective. We were saying, Hugh mentioned there about Bowmore, or Bowmore. We tend to stay in Bowmore, either at the Harbour Inn, the Lochside is another favourite, or Andrew's place at the Bowmore House. He's actually awesome, but he's so popular, you have to book so far in advance to stay with him. The Harbour Inn is managed by the Bowmore Distillery, so the distillery that I'm wearing. So they have the restaurant and the kind of rooms. And they've also got a couple of self-caterings as well, which are really, really fancy actually inside. You've also got Lucy's there. You've also got going across to the Bowmore, what's it called? The Bowmore Hotel, obviously, Catriona. They're really good. So there's so many good places. And Lucy, actually, I stayed at her place the last time I was there. And she also runs, there's one just outside of town. Can't remember what it's called. Sorry, Lucy. I see it's actually up for sale at the moment, but it's well out of my price range. The one that's just outside of town. Maybe if Megan's watching, you were there, staying with them, and we sometimes stay there. Or like I said before, there's also the Glen Eggadale, which is the best bed and breakfast in the whole of Scotland. So, if you're looking, they're right next to the airport, so between Bowmore and Port Ellen. So you've got that kind of halfway point. So, so anyway, the reason why we like or prefer to stay in Bowmore is because of the proximity to the restaurants in the evening time. You don't want to necessarily have to get in the car or get a cab again. It's just nice to have everything convenient. Helmut stayed at Port Ellen, I think the last time he was in Islay, or the second last time ago he was in Islay. And Bowmore to me is still top notch. Just because of, I don't know, everything about it. We tend to have 2 dinners, one at the Lochside, and the Lochside food is just impeccable. They've got one of the best whiskey bars on Islay, I could honestly say. They've got two bars. And then you've also got the Harbour Inn, who's got kind of more slightly higher market kind of food. So you can get, like, if you're into seafood or fresh, like really fresh food, if you want a really amazing culinary experience, Islay, there's nothing. I don't think I've ever had food as good as like ever on Islay. Actually, Hugh, you should say that. I met the guy who runs the Port Charlotte Hotel. So Hugh's just said the Port Charlotte Hotel has amazing food. Port Charlotte Hotel is amazing. I met the owner, actually. We were sat, I had a group who were in doing a tour at Kilhoman, and Kilhoman have like a little cafe, and I was talking to the owner, and he was originally from Glasgow, but he was telling me all about it, and kind of trying to organise us doing more Islay tours more frequently, I suppose. So I'm just going to quickly go through, answer a few questions, and then we'll go into the actual tour. Hi, Megs. My little sister is back. So we've got Donna. We did the Harris Whiskey and Gin tour as well as the one on Lewis. Yep. It's called Arvan Gerak, which means the Red River in Gaelic. Done that one as well on Lewis and Harris. The Harris whiskey, I mean, they don't have their whiskey yet, Helmut. Harris don't have their whiskey out yet.
No.
I don't think they've got their whiskey out yet, but they do like a tasting of different whiskies. They don't tell you which one it was, but I think it was an Orkney one. Do you remember we were talking about it? It was either Orkney or Arran.
No, she wasn't going to say.
She wasn't going to say because they can't. At Harris. Daenerys. We call her Daenerys because she looks like Daenerys, the girl who does the Harris, one of the employees of the Harris whiskey. Harris actually is a really great distillery because it's run by the community. Very clever. It's keeping that region going. They're trying to get more people involved. You can get a steak at Harris. I just love it anyway. And I love the fact that when you go on their gin tour, you can actually eat sweeties because I love my sweeties. And nothing was off limits. You can take pictures galore, which is you can't do in every distillery in Scotland. And I just love that about Harris. But they don't have their whiskey yet. That is the prime objective. They make their gin is more of a kind of byproduct of what they're trying to do, just to keep the distillery ticking over, because obviously whiskey is a very expensive thing to make because it has to age. In fact, I'm going to put this out there. No Googling. There's 3 things that you can get if you make a whiskey, okay? There are 3 things to make it a Scotch whiskey. What do you think those things are? What is the 3 prime things? Answers. Hugh, you should get this if you've done a lot of the distillery tours. And while you come up with that answer, let me just quickly see. A funny thing about Islay is that all the locals have the same length of legs. That's actually a good joke. Oh, sorry. I thought you were Donna just said it was a Viking name in Kirkwall. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the Lewis distillery. Let me just go back to your comment. And Mike, I'm so sorry. Like, you will come. Scotland is still going to be here. You're just going to have to wait a little longer till you can get over here. Peat is 1. Is it though? Is peat one of the ingredients for Scotch whiskey? Because Scotch whiskey doesn't mean it's a single malt either. There are 3 things that make up 9 years old minimum. Okay. We're getting some good answers here. I'll give you the answer in a second. Hugh, go for it. You give a wee shot. Have a wee shot and see if you can get the answer. Are you on Orkney now, Donna? Just to double check. In terms of which distillery you're talking about. Okay, no more answers. So I'm going to have to give you the answers. The answers are, in fact, oh, Tom, just made it in. So I'll just expand on that, Tom. So to be a Scotch whiskey, it needs to be aged. It needs to be made in Scotland, aged in an oak barrel. And the third thing is for a minimum of 3 years and 1 day. To make a whiskey, it's not entirely right what you're saying there. You need to be Scotch anyway. It could be water, yeast, yes, and malted barley or corn. So there are some grain distilleries, grain distilleries in Scotland who do a lot of production. They're still Scotch because they still follow those principles. You can have either a single malt or a blended distillery.
A single malt, a single grain, or a blend.
Or a blend.
Or a single malt blend.
Or a single malt blend. There you go. So you can have that array. So a lot of people get confused because they think that it has to come from just peat. Peat is just a fuel source that's used to malt the barley for some distilleries. Not all of the distilleries use peat to malt their barley. It just so happens that in certain parts of Scotland, peat is the or at least was the main fuel source, i.e. to keep you warm and to make you warm. Sorry guys, Helmut's just feeding my cat because he's
no, otherwise you're just gonna
or you're just gonna hear him meow in the background for the next 10 minutes. The key is that whatever it is, that it's aged in an oak barrel for a minimum of 3 years and 1 day.
And the water also has to be from Scotland.
And the water, well, I said that already. I said it has to be made in Scotland, aged in Scotland. Those are two very important parts. You can use the barley from another place. So most whiskey distilleries in Scotland favour barley. But we do have, and it's what's it called now? Strathisla Distillery. They do grain. They've got a grain edition, so you can try that. Because they're managed by the guys in Chivas Regal. So you get a chance to try some. In fact, you got some. Let's just, Helmut, come down. I'm going to pass you over to Helmut quickly. Here, go sit down. Explain a little bit about the differences between whiskies.
Hello. The differences between whiskey. Where were we?
We're going to go into the actual distilleries themselves in a minute.
Well, let's stick to the Strathisla one. The Strathisla one is it's part of Chivas, so they do single malt up in Strathisla, which is in Speyside, and you've got the Chivas distillery down here. And so what they did was they made a single grain whiskey, and it was aged. The bottle I have was 12 years, I think. And so you can think of it like a bourbon is just much better than a bourbon. So it's basically grain whiskey, but and this was a single grain, wasn't a single cask. That's very good, and if you can find it, it should be available in most places because it's not like some special secret place. It just isn't a lot of it, but essentially that is what we're getting.
So we went, and the reason why we brought that up is because Hugh put in there that you needed barley to make a Scotch whiskey, and that's why I kind of threw the grain in there, because it's a misconception. You can use a cereal product. It has to be malted.
Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Ian. Yes. The whiskey, the difference between single malt and grain is just production, really. Single malt is made from malted barley in the classic, romantic kettles or stills that you see in the photos, whereas the grain whiskies are made in what they refer to as a coffee still or continuous still, which is more a continuous production. They need a little bit of barley. It helps with fermentation or something. I don't know exactly, but there's a little bit of barley that they need. But essentially, it's like a continuous process. So, for example, if you can make, let's say, a couple of 100,000 liters a year of single malt, you can make probably 2 million liters of grain whiskey a year because of the different processes, the continuous stills that you use. You can just Google coffee stills or continuous stills. The kind of smaller places like the bourbon distilleries don't really use that. It's a way of producing alcohol cheaply and quickly, and they will also make alcohol for medical purposes and everything like that. Is a much higher content of alcohol that goes into. Usually a continuous still will be around 90% plus, whereas the kind of standard single malt distilleries using the typical copper stills, they will do maybe somewhere between 60 and 70% alcohol that they put into the barrels. However, What happens afterwards is exactly the same. They will take the alcohol, they will put it in the barrels, they'll probably water it down a little bit, they will put it in oak barrels, and they will age it. And that is where things like Johnny Walker, J&B, White Horse, name some blends, White and Mackay, all these things. That's what the bulk of what they're made of is, this kind of cheaper produced alcohol. It's also aged, it's also looked after, it's also managed well in warehouses, and that is then blended usually.
And it's also Scotch.
It's also Scotch, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that would then be blended usually with single malts. Usually the ratio is something like 70% grain whiskey with about 30 to 40%. And that brings you to a typical kind of Johnny Walker or whatever you get. And the more high-end whiskies and aged whiskies are in the blends, the more expensive they will be. It's not like blends or grain whiskies are neglected. It's some cheaper ones are, obviously, but essentially there's the same effort that goes into the whole idea of maturing the whiskey, where they are, where they're barreled, what barrels they're using, etc., etc. What casks.
So. Yeah. So we're just going into Islay anyway, because let's just read that.
Jim McEwan decided to do away with years. Yeah, well, that's actually an industry thing. It's not just Jim McEwan. It's an industry thing. Now, it's a bit of a BS behind it, I think, because when we started doing whiskey tours, it kind of started Auchentoshan, Bowmore, a lot of the Beam Suntory,
even Lafroig hardly does that, and
Lafroig, most of them. And what they started to, the story they started to tell in the distilleries from the visit center perspective was that they're trying to get people away from the idea that old is good, and only old is good. And secretly they were telling us here and there that one of the reasons they're doing that is because they are running out of barrels, because the whiskey market has exploded, and so many more people are making barrels, and there's like a shortage of wood, and there's a shortage of good barrels, and all this sort of stuff. So that was one of the stories we heard in the beginning. And that's also apparently why a lot of the distilleries like Beam Suntory, specifically in Auchentoshan, and therefore also Bowmore and Lafroig, are coming out with these interesting expressions now, where they use oak from different areas, Russian oak, younger oak, American oak, and different types of oak, younger oak, older oak. They've also started using a lot more barrels than they used to. Like, for example, they're going into using barrels that we used for storing different white wines in Germany and all sorts. So the whole kind of where they source their barrels from has become quite extended. But over time, it sounded more like they were trying to decrease the amount of time that they actually have to wait before they can sell it. If they can sell you the idea that younger whiskey is good, then they don't have to wait with their younger whiskey in a warehouse for 20 years before somebody thinks it's worth anything. I have to agree with that, because I don't think that the younger whiskey is actually worse. I think it all depends on the blending of the expression that you get at the end of the day. The proof's in the pudding. The proof is in some of the Auchentoshan expression, especially. And see that Bunnahabhain.
Yeah, we've got the Bunnahabhain.
The Bunnahabhain, Toicha Chada, some of the Bunnahabhain stuff they've come out is just incredible. And some of the whiskies they're probably a blend between whiskies that are between 6 and 10 years old. And it's magic, And some of the ways they...
Even I was mentioning the Octomore is always very young.
The Octomore is usually somewhere between 5 and 12 years old, yeah. So anyway, so the Bunnahabhain, this one here, I don't know if you can see it. This, in my opinion, is one of the most complex and best tasting whiskies sub 80 pounds. This one is actually only about 40 pounds in the shops. And there's no age statement on this whatsoever. So that means that it doesn't mean it's young. It just means that it's... have a wee look if there's a...
You can actually explain the thing about the age of the whiskey as well. What does that mean? If a whiskey says 12 years, does that mean it's 12 years?
Yeah, if we go back a little bit to what we were discussing earlier, what makes a Scotch and the different types of Scotch, you've got single malt, single grain, blend, and single malt blend.
No,
and then when a lot of people confuse single malt with a bottle being a single bottle of whiskey, but actually this expression, there's some lady, usually a lady, who sits in a lab. She gets samples from the warehouse, and the warehouse has some idea of what those samples are, and she will use her nose to mix this expression.
Hi, Mom. Sorry.
So essentially, yeah, Kilchoman is a classic, and one of the reasons they have to, hi Tom, is because they're a younger distillery and they want to start getting things out. But actually, at the moment, they're hoarding whiskey. They're trying to age whiskey again.
We were just talking about this,
which is quite interesting. But anyway, so in this bottle, there is most likely older and younger whiskies in there from slightly different barrels. I know that this one has some bourbon casks.
It's got Oloroso sherry.
And Oloroso sherry. So they blend the two. Sometimes they marry them, sometimes they blend them. Marrying is, let me get this right. Marrying is if they put it together in a barrel again and let it age a little bit longer. Then you also have finishing, is when they just finish. They put it from one barrel into a different barrel for a wee while. And that can be different ages again, somewhere between 6 months and maybe a couple of years. So what's in a bottle, unless it says single cask, it will be a blend of different barrels that was lying in the warehouse. So
yeah. So we were just talking about the tours that we do when we go to Islay, because you've done all of them specifically. You know, for example, going to Lafroig. There's a cat. Yeah. Just don't go onto my computer, please.
You can stay with me.
So just explain the so what we tend to do and why we do it when we go to Lafroig, Ardbeg, and Lagavulin, and then the next day. I mean, you've done the newer distillery there at.
Well, yeah, our tour basically makes every attempt to stick in a short amount of time, but go to see everything that is available on Islay, and now including Jura. So that means we hit every distillery, either for a quick tasting, a tour, or a special tasting, a warehouse tasting, or whatever is available at that distillery. And also we go to the brewery, who've just changed their name. Yes, Hugh, please.
What's Hugh saying, sorry?
He's sending me a friend request.
Oh. Hugh's from here, by the way.
From where?
From Greenock.
All right.
Yeah. Kilchoman has figured out how to make, I'm just looking at the demand seems to so great today. That's right. The whiskey is, the demand of whiskey has gone up. It is a booming market. We see that all the time in the distilleries as well. A lot of them are opening themselves up for more and more tourists. Not every single distillery has a visitor experience, but a lot of them are starting. Some of them are starting in reverse as well. So they're actually building things from a visitor experience perspective, more so than the actual distilling process, because they know that, especially if they're kind of new, they know that they need to get that in first.
Well, that's why a lot of them are doing gin.
Gin,
because they've got something to sell quickly from the start, which I think is a cop-out. And that's why I love the botanist so much, because it doesn't feel like a gin which has been produced in order just to make a quick buck, because a lot of people have decided to drink gin. It's actually a really well thought out gin. They have a stretch of land which has a lot of very unique herbs and plants that they use in their gin, and they very selectively pick that. In fact, you can go on a tour and they'll show you all the different herbs that they use.
And that's at Bruichladdich.
That's at Bruichladdich, yeah. But anyway, we were talking about the tour.
No, I keep
we were talking about the tour. The reason it's important to hit all the stuff on Islay is because Islay is it's not very big, but it actually has a lot to offer. So, for example, when we do the tour to Islay, we obviously have to drive to the ferry port, and then we've got to take the ferry over, and then we spend some time on Islay, and then we've got to come back. So all of this takes time. But luckily for us, Scotland has something interesting at every single corner that you can go to. So, for example, when we're driving up to Islay, to Kennecraig, where the ferry port is, we will also stop in Inverary.
Yeah.
We will stop in Inverary and we'll go to Lagavulin Whiskies. They have an incredible selection of whiskey. It's a good place to have lunch in Inverary. Plus, they have their own bottlings as well. So they don't produce whiskey, but they're a whiskey company. And they've got some amazing expressions right now. I think Catriona showed some the other day. There was the Rabbie Burns one.
Sorry, which one are we talking about?
The two thin bottles that they gave me. And then we also go to the Kilmartin Glen, to the Standing Stones, and Dun at Heelfort, which was the epicenter of Celtic culture 1,500 years ago. On Islay, if we just take away the distilleries for a second, on Islay you also have Finlagan, which was the parliament, if you want to call it that, of the MacDonalds.
Yeah.
You've got Dunivik Castle, which is where the Lord of the Isle had his whole fleet, and he could watch out on the sea between Ireland and Scotland. There's also I keep forgetting the name of the church. There's a church on Ireland and Northern Ireland, and a church just behind Lafroig in ruins, and they actually both of them. There's a name, I always forget the name. The little island is called that, just off Ireland. Anyway, what's interesting about it is that they believe that because, as many might or might not know, the MacDonald seat actually stretched all the way to Northern Ireland, and so the churches had like a raised platform for pyres, so they could actually signal each other between Ireland and Ireland. So anyway, there's all these really interesting historical places as well to go and see.
But also nature. There's the wild bird sanctuary. Islay is famous for bird watchers from all over to see special birds. You've got seals, lots of wildlife, like sea wildlife.
Well, Lagavulin, isn't that Seal Bay or something?
Just past Lagavulin, you've got Seal Bay.
Yeah, but I mean the name Lagavulin is...
Maybe. I
might be mistaken.
But there is a Seal Bay in Islay just beyond Lagavulin. Yeah. You've also got little forest walks.
Kildalton Church and the Kildalton Cross.
Yeah, and you can go, there's lovely walks on Islay. So even if you're not there for the whiskey, I took a couple of years ago, I took Anne and Doreen over to Islay.
Give me a glass.
And I'll get it in a moment. One of his, which whiskey glass? This one is a Springbank glass. We've got all the different distilleries. But I took Anne and Doreen there, and what we should say is the type of tours that we do at when we're on Islay is we tend to do at Lafroig, we do something called the Distillers Wares Tour. I think it's probably one of the most comprehensive kind of tours that you can have if you're a whiskey lover. It's probably one of the better ones because it's a good 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Sometimes they don't even know what time You know,
Yeah.
I've sometimes sat there an extra half an hour after the tour was supposed to end. Sorry, I'm just going to come in.
Karen Covello, hello.
Hi, Karen.
I'm trying to understand your question. So, do true whiskey lovers not mind a blended whiskey or single malt?
I don't know.
No.
I've
In
actually
my
got a
experience, the majority of people who really like whiskey drink single malt.
Yeah.
However, it needs to be put into context because there's nothing wrong with a blend. If you would take the market share, let's say out of 100, the market share of blends is probably 80 to 90%. And every Tom, Dick, and Harry drinks blends. So if you think of all the Johnny Walkers and all the cheap whiskey brands that you see, Scotch and made elsewhere, they make up the bulk of the whiskey industry. That's where all the real money comes from and has been. And if you also remember that a lot of the single malt distilleries, as part of their production, will be sold to blenders as well. So we would not have this high quality single malt product if it wasn't for blends. And a lot of people, especially Chinese, Indian folk, swear by Johnny Walker, for example. Now, maybe that's just marketing. Maybe it's availability. I don't know. But if it wasn't for the blend market, we probably would not have single malt. There's no doubt in my mind, at least, that a single malt from the majority of the distilleries that we've been to, which is nearly all of them.
Hi, Taylor.
Is that they definitely are. This is the phrase I use to our guests. There are very few industries that exist today that have survived for so many years. I mean, we're talking about 200 years, some of them, and are still producing whiskey, still making a product calmly, patiently, and with a complete eye on quality. The reason they do that is because if they don't, there goes the product. I mean, the whole point of single malt is that it's a patient, quality-based product. As for, do true whiskey lovers not mind a blended whiskey or to single malt? I think there is snobbery there. So what that means is that
one of them.
Blends are seen to be substandard and so on. That's not necessarily true, but at the end of the day, it's about taste. So if you go to a whiskey tasting, they've got a couple of blends and a couple of single malts, and you happen to prefer the blends, so be it.
Yeah.
You know, they, with all these things, with all these kind of fads, there's always snobbery going on, and it shouldn't be. It's like Macallan seemed to be one of the best single malts. In our opinion, it just isn't. But if somebody likes Macallan, then they like Macallan. There's nothing we can do about it. Oh, that's entirely their problem. So I don't know if that answers your question in a strange
and
long way.
actually, the thing about Macallan is got to do more with our own desire as tour guides, I suppose, and as people of Scotland, to seek out things that are not as commonly
That's a great question.
Not as common, or things that you can't always find at home. So we've got no problem with Macallan. Macallan are fantastic at what they do, but everybody goes there. Everybody wants it because they're so accessible. We like taking you to places that you probably would never, ever, ever, ever otherwise get a chance. And I mean, just to say, like when you go to Islay, they do all have their visitor centres. So you've got Lefroy. We're mentioning the tour there. You can go over to, they've got like a bar area and a little shop and a kind of very mini sort of exhibition that takes you around like a museum experience.
The Freud Distillery is just one of those places.
I love it. We just saw that you can get married there yesterday. You can get married at Lafroig. How awesome is that?
But another thing, the Macallan story.
Macallan just built a new thingy. That's what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah, no, but what I was going to say about Macallan was that I don't know what our viewers are, where they're from, but you tend to find that people from the Americas and people from, I'm talking about North and South, including Canada, also some of the Asian markets, they have a real affinity to either Johnny Walker or Macallan.
Yeah.
Now that is most likely
Glenmorangie.
On Glenmorangie, and that is most likely to do with marketing and their marketing reach. And they will usually have a few main whiskies that are on their lips: Macallan, Glenmorangie, Lafroig, Johnny Walker. I'm missing one, but irrelevant. The point is, what I usually tell them, regardless of where we go on tour, if we go to Speyside, if we go just stay in the lowlands, or if we go to Islay, is that by the end of the tour, they would have forgotten about Macallan and Glenmorangie and Johnny Walker, for example. The reason is not that the others are better. The reason is simple, that they suddenly, when they come to a place like Islay or Campbellton or Speyside, they suddenly realize how many incredible whiskies there are. You can go to any distillery here and the whiskies are all good. All of them. It's just about your personal taste if you like them or not, but they're all top quality. The visitor experiences are great. The people who work there love what they do.
Yeah.
And so it's not that Macallan isn't good or they're just, maybe a bit commercial. It's the fact that you suddenly realize that, well, we've got over 90 really good distilleries. Each of them have every year probably around about 3 or 4 core ranges out, and then maybe another 3 or 4 great expressions as well. So you're kind of spoiled for choice. And that's why coming on tour for whiskey kind of needs to be a yearly occurrence.
Yeah.
Because there's always something,
come back.
Something interesting and new.
Well, that's kind of what we were getting at, because this is supposed to be an Islay chat, actually, guys. So we've kind of digressed quite a bit, and we're probably going to cut out here on Instagram. We're going to go on for another 10-15 minutes. So if we do cut out, guys, I will start on Instagram in another as soon as it cuts out. So just go back into it. So don't worry if you do cut out, because there are some really great things to be said about Islay if you are interested, aside from just the whiskey. So what we were trying to get at...
you want me to carry on the tour?
Yeah, so we were going to... I'm just looking at the time there. So
right,
yeah.
I'll do it fast and maybe we can...
No. Just go into Lafroig. Do day one. We'll do day one.
Yeah, I'll try and do this quickly. So usually the tour starts, we leave Glasgow or Edinburgh and we head off to Kennaicraig, and on the way there, we stop at certain historical sites, sometimes even Auchentoshan, which is in Glasgow, a quick tasting, and off we go to Kennaicraig, past or through Inverary, Kilmartin Glen, places like that. And then usually we end up on Islay on the first day, somewhere between 6 and 8 o'clock at night, which then means that straight to the Lochside for some dinner. Amazing dinner, actually, right on the water in Lochendal. And amazing seafood, because literally the restaurant's sitting right next to the bay where the fisher boats come in. The meat comes from literally across the street from the butcher. So classic experience, and they've got an amazing
the staff are amazing though as well.
Staff are amazing.
Same people.
And if you've got thousands of pounds of credit on your credit card, you can have some. You have some drams of Port Ellen. You know what I mean? So. So and then the next day It's not always exactly the same, but the next day is then usually first thing in the morning. Well, not first thing, 10 o'clock after a nice Scottish breakfast.
Yeah,
which
you have to have
need.
a proper Scottish breakfast on this tour. Guy Helmut's got some great stories about people not being able, and I do too as well. You always see people start to get a little bit merry on this tour.
Yeah, eating is required.
Before we carry on, I'm going to end this, guys, on the chat now on Instagram. I'll start it again. So if you are interested, just go and click back on it again. It just gives us only an hour. So I'm just going to end this. If you're interested, come back on. I'll restart one straight away.
Are there any questions on Facebook? Thanks, you.
Yo. Right. So I'm just.
It's easy to talk about whiskey, just so you know. It's not hard.
So we're just getting our Instagram back up. It takes a few minutes.
Is anybody having the dram? So
Helmut's having the Bruichladdich one. So you can see it there. The one that Helmut was mentioning before. I can never say it.
The Bruichladdich, and it is basically means the smoky one, number 2, because they had a Bruichladdich out, which was the first time I tried it, and this is the Bruichladdich. Adar means the second, so the second smoky one. And because Bruichladdich are basically a non-peaty whiskey, so they bring out a couple of peaty expressions every now and then. Bowmore 12.
Bowmore 12. I don't.
It's a good one. The Bowmores are, to me, like a good friend. Like, it never goes wrong. Doesn't matter which Bowmore. I don't think that they're ever. Oh, no, that's not true. I love the Devil's Cast. They were really good. The Devil's Cast 4 or 5, I think it was incredible. But the Bowmore, any time of the day, to be honest. Are they back up?
Not yet, but it's probably my fault because I'm connecting to the wrong internet. Sorry, guys. Oh, I'm connected. That is amazing. Okay. Sweet. Oops. So hold on. How do I add this?
To any of
you're getting to see the technical side of things.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't always work. Oh, checking connection. Please work for me. If not, it's because I'm trying to connect to the wrong internet. In fact, I'm going to actually not connect to that one.
Who have we got on here?
So we've got Taylor. Taylor was supposed to be coming with me here in Greenock.
Hi, Bonnie. Any of you guys?
Okay, now we're connected.
Tried whiskey? Do we have any kind of
aficionados?
No. I'm actually looking for the non-aficionados.
The non-aficionados. Oh, here we go. We're live again. I was trying to connect to the wrong internet, so apologies for that, guys. For that slight delay. We were really just getting into it. So that is.
Give me time to refill.
Helmut's got time to refill, which Helmut went through a full bottle of Ardbeg pretty much on his own. I had a tour the next day. We went to a Halloween party and we went to a friend's house, and it was actually kind of like a sort of kids' Halloween party, and it was for all the parents. And all the parents, we all got together, and Helmut turns up with his Ardbeg, and then
was the Anno, wasn't it? The Anno.
It was the Anno, and it was just
Anno,
like
man.
He was the only one drinking it, and I was completely sober. Well, you kind of sort of were. There was one Englishman there who we love, by the way. One Englishman and Colin. Colin was all right.
Yeah, and Casca also.
Had a wee bit, but anyway, so. I didn't have a drop, so I had to basically carry him home. That's what a bottle of Ardbeg does, guys. It's not the smartest thing.
Okay,
I'm sitting here. Yeah, I'm fine.
Anyway, so for the Instagram, I didn't carry on with the tour. I waited till you guys are back. Once we get once day 2, well, basically day 1 on Islay itself starts, we usually start immediately in the morning, the first tour that's available on Bowmore. And it's a very standard tour with a typical kind of tasting at the end. But the most amazing thing about doing the Bowmore tour is that you end up in vault number 1. So I don't have the date right in front of me, but Bowmore was established in 1784 or something, and that vault that you are doesn't.
No.
Anyway, that vault that you go into has been used as a place to age whiskey for way over 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another thing about distilleries. It's like good whiskey shops, yeah, okay. Scotland, yeah, okay, when it comes to whiskey, but the distilleries is where it's at. You have to go to the distilleries for so many reasons. So, and after that, we go to Bruichladdich.
Karen's back.
Hi. So then we go to Bruichladdich, and Bruichladdich we just do a tasting, because Bruichladdich are insanely good with letting you try a lot of different things. And I always say this, I think that Bruichladdich have it perfect when it comes to tasting whiskey. They will give you quite a few different ones before they start, looking at you all sideways. But they give you very little, because the idea is that you just taste it. Whereas most visitor centers think that they should give you a dram. You don't want a dram. You want to taste different ones to see which ones you like. It's either an introduction to some, or people want to see what's new. So you want to taste a few different ones. So if any distillers, PRs, marketing, or visitor center managers are watching this, I think there's a really good etiquette at Bruichladdich. Let the people taste, except for the really expensive expressions. They basically let you taste quite a few, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean a few. There's basically no limit, dare I say that out loud. But they give you very little. And I think that's important, because it means that you can go through the ones and you can actually taste them. But you're not sitting there drinking dram after dram.
But it works for them, because they do sell a lot of whiskey.
I think so.
I've got my... I even as guides, we buy quite a lot of whiskey while we're out. I'm always on the phone, if it's me or if it's Helmut. We're always on the phone to one another. This one's out. I've got a cast strength, whatever. There's a new Octomore, because it's usually the Octomores, but I did buy Port Charlotte.
We bought the Port Charlotte.
I bought Port Charlotte last time I was there. I can't remember which one.
We also, did we not once? No, I never bought the beer barley. Anyway, point is, we go to Bruichladdich, and once we're done there, you need food, right? So then we go to Kilchoman.
Yeah.
Who've just expanded, who've doubled their capacity. Yeah. And they have like a very small kind of little canteen thing. Perfect for lunch.
Hi, Mom.
Because once you're done with lunch, we then do the Kilchoman tour. The Kilchoman tour is really interesting in a sense, because it's one of the few classic farm distilleries left. Mm-hmm. However, now with the expansion, you could probably start, like getting rid of that term for them, because they will double capacity, I think, to about 400,000 liters a year. But anyway, it's still on a farm. You can still see where they grow their own barley for the Kilchoman barley expressions. It's all very few staff, all very intimate, all hand done. They still have a malting floor, which is quite unique. So it's a very nice tour. And when you are running around in between tours at Kilchoman, the guys that work in the still room, the stillman and so on, they're around. And if you ask them a question, they'll answer you. You know what I mean? You can get the word from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And that's basically the day done, officially. But there's always time to go to, usually after that, we'll go to the brewery.
Yeah.
We'll go to maybe Kulila or something like that for a quick tasting, because the visitor centers are pretty good. And obviously in the evening, we will then go to either the Harbour Inn or the loch side for dinner. The next morning will then be Lafroig.
So we're going to go in the opposite direction.
Well, the days can
you can
be
mix match them depending on what they are.
We'll go to Lafroig. We'll do the Distillers' Wares,
yeah.
which is a quite extensive long tour. But the magic with the Distillers tour is that at the end, you end up in the warehouse. You taste straight out of 3 barrels. It's usually a bourbon. What is it? A bourbon, a port, and 1 other, or sometimes only 2. It all depends what they've got. And then you can choose which one you want to bottle. And then you get a beautiful little bottle, 200 ml bottle that you then fill yourself with the Valanche. And it goes into a very nice little display case. So you walk away with a really nice trinket and a really good straight cask strength, straight out the cask that you filled yourself. You can even label it yourself and everything. So it's a really intimate, beautiful little ceremony. If you then, after that, it depends on the timings, but we'll either go to Ardbeg for a tasting and lunch.
Yeah, usually table tasting.
Table tasting and lunch. They've got wonderful food there at Ardbeg. And then we'll, either before that or after that, there's time to go to the Kildalton Church. Excuse me. Just for a wee visit. And guess what? We always have whiskey with us, so we usually have a wee dram there as well.
And there's often, like in the summer months, there's usually like a what you call like an honesty box. Like a local lady makes like cakes and things.
And jams.
And jams and stuff. So there's like an honesty box right next to the Kildalton Church. And the Kildalton Church has also got the Kildalton Cross, which is a Celtic cross. And they do a lot of work there. It's a historic Scotland site, although it's free admission. It is a ruin, the church site itself. Yeah. But there's a little cross on the other side as well. So it's very important in terms of Celtic Christianity. It's like a really important Celtic Christian site. And it's something that doesn't cost anything. You've got the little, the hills and the views there are very pretty anyway.
Yeah.
And it's literally
the best time,
a stone's throw away. Hi, Clyde Marshall. We're missing you guys as well. Sorry, Clyde Marshall Park just joined our chat and we love them. Our local park.
The best time to go to the Kildalton Cross is Mayish because all around it is bluebells, right? So you've got this church ruin, got the sunlight, the trees are just in bloom, and then you've got well, I'm surprised I get a word in, Ian. It's not a mutual thing, it's a one-way thing. I'm surprised I managed to finish that sentence. Anyway, so and then we're back to Lagavulin to do the warehouse tasting, which is insanely special because you sit in the warehouse. I think it's 5 barrels straight out the barrel. And to anybody who really loves whiskey, there is nothing like taking the Valanche, sucking the whiskey straight out the barrel and pouring it into your little Glencairn glass and then being able to taste it that way. That is the Mecca of Meccas, right? So that is really just an amazing thing to do. That's at Lagavulin. So it's just insane. So again, after that, there's usually time to do other things, like maybe head up to Bunnahabhain or Culilla, depending on what we missed. So we kind of play with times a little bit. There's also usually time to go to Finlagan. In summer, they're open, and you can walk around between the ruins of the old MacDonald. It's not a castle. It's more like a selection of ruins, and it was supposed to have been their parliament as such. So you're in the heart of the MacDonald kingdom and where all the decisions were taken. So again, just an incredible
and it's really
experience.
beautiful as well, isn't it? It's really, really beautiful there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Helmut was mentioning, when you go to somewhere like Lagavulin, because where the distillery sits, you're right on the bay, so you can also get a good view. Just they've got like a kind of it's almost like a veranda built in wooden viewpoint platform pagoda thing. It's like I can't put it into words really, but you can go there and you can actually see down towards the castle as well. So you've got the ruined castle. We stayed there. I mentioned this the other night when we went to Islay. They have glamping pods there, and we stayed there. They're called the Storm Pods, and it was probably one of the nicest places I think we've ever stayed. And the people who run that, I'll just put a wee word down for them because they've got a really cool thing going. They also do like fishing trips, so you can go out on a fishing trip and you catch your own food, and you drink whiskey on the boat, and they bring you back, and then they make a barbecue on the beach with your fresh fish and shellfish that you've just got.
Your mother just said that you as women are the best.
Us women are the best.
No, she said.
So there's a reason why you go to Ireland. It's kind of like that. Like I might post it on the Slange Facebook page. I did a little video. We went into Isla's own kind of fairy glen, and again, bluebells, just lovely foliage everywhere, and an old ruined house, and we're just walking about. So I just took a wee film of it. But you've also got, like I said before, like the Seal Bay, things like that. And the new distillery they've got there, Ardnahoe Distillery. Yeah. You can go visit Ardnahoe, and Helmut sometimes go there, but I don't think
we do. No, we do go there, and they do have tours. I don't know if it's changed now, but Ardnahoe, when they were building the distillery, they couldn't let anybody near the distillery, so they had a little shop, like 2 doors down from the brewery. And if you went into the shop, they were the loveliest 2 ladies who used to be in the shop. And so Ardnahoe is run by one of the Lang guys who have a whiskey company. And so in the shop they didn't just do whiskey, they also did not port, rum. Is it rum?
And God, I can just smell his breath now, and it just smells like peat.
Remember the guy? The guy who was with us, and he was was it rum?
Interesting.
So anyway, Ardnahoe doesn't just have because the guys that actually built and run Ardnahoe, this is now a distillery, legit and all, but they're actually a company, and they also buy from other distilleries. And they also do, I'm sorry, it might be rum. I'm sure it's rum. Anyway, point is that they have a huge selection of whiskies that are not just from Ardnahoe and Islay, but also from other distilleries all around Scotland.
Night.
And what I love about them is that some of them are really well priced, and a lot of them are cask strength. So they're straight out of barrels, and the pricing is usually somewhere between £40 and £80, which is a good price. The other cool thing about Ardnahoe is that if you go to the visitor to the kind of cafe center, they've got this huge glass on the other side, and it's basically they framed Jura in it. So when you look out, the glass just frames the paps of Jura. So you look out on the island of Jura on the other side of the Kyle, which is a spectacular view. If you can imagine yourself eating some, freshly baked cake and having a dram, looking out on the paps, again, it's just an incredible experience. So, we do go to Ardnahoe.
We go to Ardnahoe, and we also go to Jura. Obviously, Jura is weather dependent because it is a little ferry that takes you over. We don't go over on with the vehicle though. we go over is foot passengers with you, but it is within walking distance, so you don't have to worry about that too much. But we do go over, and you've got a chance to go over to the Jura distillery as well, and you do that in half a day, so it's only a half a day that you have to worry about. But the only thing is, it isn't our tour, our main tour, but it's the only kind of weather dependent element on the trip, and we never missed it. But I always like to say that, because you never know what's going to happen, especially with the swells and things that happen on the Kyles and things like that. Oh, our wee Baird. He is a wee Baird. Thanks, Karen. He's away to his bed now, because he just got up for a wee drink of water. Bonnie's just saying, enjoying both of you. We'll definitely make arrangements to meet you in our return. My air transit credit is worked, so looking forward to May, June 2021. Sweet. Awesome.
So
he's a wee Baird as well, though.
the Jura thing is interesting because the little ferry jump over from Islay to Jura is quite an experience, because you're fighting the tides, one of the strongest tides between the Kyle, because it's such a thin stretch of water and it's heavily affected by the tides. So you take a very small ferry and you go across it sideways, because you're fighting the current coming either way or the other. It's an experience.
That's awesome.
And then when you get to Jura, to the distillery, you've got a cat on your lap. The Elvis, the Jura cat.
Yeah.
But that is one thing that could or could not happen, and it's usually not about getting to Jura. It's usually about making sure you get back from it, because that's usually the last day, and you need to make sure that you catch the ferry back to the mainland and all these kind of things.
And we always take the last ferry back, guys, just so you know. And starting last year, because sometimes there can be problems with the ferry, what we've started to do is actually stay in Tarbet, which is on the mainland. There's so many Tarbets in Scotland, but it's the Tarbet in, well,
one of three Tarbets.
One of the Tarbets in Argyll.
Yeah.
Yes, there are others, and it's not very far. Like, what, 10 minutes?
Yeah,
it's like 10 minutes from the ferry terminal. And we usually stay there. Now there's a place, where's the castle? The Stone Castle.
Oh, Stonefield.
Stonefield, that's it. Stonefield Castle, which
is pretty,
is lovely, and it's where we tend to stay.
It's a bit like this, but
it's a bit highbrow, but after your trip, it's just quite nice, and it just means that if you've got the ferry and our ferry's delayed, usually we get off no problem. We've never ever had to stay, but I have come off the ferry one night trying to get back to Glasgow area, and we only got off the ferry at, gosh, it must have been about 11:30 at night. So I was only, down by Glasgow at 1:30 in the morning, and trying to do all that, it was really difficult.
That's why we changed it, because we ended up in Glasgow dropping people off in Glasgow at their accommodation 12 o'clock at night, and then the poor guys had to get up early to catch a flight or something. So it works out better to come back to the mainland and go from there. Do you mind getting me a glass of water?
A wee glass of water.
I'm stuck.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's so that's basically the tour.
Thank you, honey.
And how it works.
However, there is a variation on this, and it works really well.
Right, Ian.
It works really well on private tours, and that is that instead of just doing Islay, we include a day in Campbelltown.
That's what you were supposed to be doing this time round.
Yeah, and you can do it in 5 days. You can do Campbelltown, Islay, and Jura in 5 days, and gets a bit hectic, but it can be done. The reason it can be done is because Campbelltown is maybe 20-30 minutes from Kennaicraig. But it only has 3 distilleries, but they're incredible and they're absolutely worth it. And Campbelltown is now on such a par that it is nearly the 5th region. There's a bit of umming and eyeing about it, but it would be the 5th whiskey region. It would be Islay, Lowlands, Highlands, Campbelltown, and Islay. So
I think you said Islay.
Did I say Islay twice?
Yeah.
Where are we?
So
Highlands, Lowlands,
Speyside, Islay and Campbellton.
I forgot Speyside. Thank
Yes.
you. So,
how could you forget Speyside?
Well, it's not that hard. they don't have any peat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Campbelltown is special and very special. It was a town.
It used to be the biggest whiskey producer in Scotland.
Yeah.
And it was America's prohibition which actually killed it. That where they're located. So if you know the Mull of Kintyre, so you might have all heard that Paul McCartney song, Mull of Kintyre. Do, 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 do. And I used to live down there. I think he has a house or something. He still has his house there. I only know that he likes to walk around his house nude. That's the only story I know about him. because the local Mull of Kintyre, wherever he was, postman or policeman it was, a policeman had to go and chap on his door because they were smoking marijuana. And Paul McCartney opens the door and you can imagine quite a shock to a church going rural Scotsman. Anyway, that's my story about that. But Campbellton is such an important region in Scotland.
If there's any whiskey lovers here listening to this, imagine a town literally built on whiskey. And I don't just mean the economy. I'm talking about every single wall, building, including a massive park that is built on the excrement of distilleries. And the park is probably the size of 4 or 5 football fields of just distillery waste that has been used to fill in and make a park. I mean, there was at a time in the 1900s over 30 distilleries running in the town. And it's not like Islay where they distributed all over the island. The town was a massive distillery, basically. And it's so interesting to walk through the town from one place to another, and they'll give you a map. Actually, it took me quite a bit to get a proper map, and they'll show you where all the lots where all the distilleries were. So you're literally walking through one distillery, through the next one. And then on top of that, you've got, the distilleries themselves. And in my opinion, they're on par with Islay all the way. It's just incredible whiskies.
It took a Swedish Whiskey Association on a special tour. Was it maybe 2 years ago now? And they were absolutely blown away once they got to Campbellton.
Yeah.
It was probably, we were mentioning the other night, you guys were talking about Oban and Talisker and all these other distilleries. And I have to say that they do not come even close to the experience, because when you go to a place like that, it's not just about they understand why people are there in the first place. This isn't just about tasting whiskey. You can do that in your own home. You can buy your own whiskey in your own home. It's about the whole experience. It's understanding that this is a kind of pilgrimage. This is something that's a bit unique and special to you, and they treat you properly. Some of the other distilleries, you do become just a bit of a number because you are so, you're just, they're so used to it. They become a bit complacent. Whereas the likes of Campbellton and Islay are really special because even though they have the numbers, I mean, these guys have their fish and people literally, I mean, this is kind of what I was saying before. You just go to Islay and everybody's happy. Everybody on Islay is happy. Everybody is in their element, whether you're a whiskey drinker or not, because it's just the atmosphere, the vibe of the island is just something you'll never experience unless you go there. But they are so used to taking all these people and they will treat you properly. I've never had, sometimes, you can, I haven't had the shouty woman before. Shouty woman, but it was just her manner.
Yeah, but she was Irish.
She was Irish. But it was just her manner. But it's not, it wasn't out of badness. The thing about Islay is that they get why people visit. And it's all about the same with Campbellton, whereas some of the other distilleries, so when we take our special groups round, and I think this is actually an important point to make, I'm sorry, honey, but a lot of people say to us, we want to do Talisker and we want to do this, and that would compromise doing something else. So, for example, going to Campbellton or going to Islay or going to some of the other distilleries in Speyside, like Aberlour. Aberlour, actually, even though they're a large whiskey producer, they are probably one of the nicest distilleries I've ever dealt with, because they get why people go there. So you get that experience. They treat you properly. You might get to try something a bit different or a bit unique. You never feel like you're just a number walking in there. And Lagavulin is a classic. You might have 16 people there all wanting to buy stuff because they're all there at the same time. And you've got, like, one of the most special moments for me was taking a gentleman on a private tour. And it wasn't my tour wasn't a private tour, it was a standard Islay tour, but it wasn't private tour at all. Anyway, I took him, it was a small group.
Long story short,
I took him to Lagavulin, and that was the thing he wanted the most out of the whole trip. Any other distillery, it was just his favourite whiskey. He really wanted to do Lagavulin. He couldn't wait to do it. And when I took him in, he had a baldy head, right? And Ian, the old chap at the distillery, took a little bit of whiskey, just a little bit of whiskey, and rubbed it on his baldy head. And I've never seen a man so happy in my whole entire life when he came out of that distillery. Something so ridiculous and something so trivial and so small made his entire trip. Whereas if you go to Talisker,
they'll ask you to please go around the corner and buy your tasting at the bar at normal bar prices.
I know, it's just not the same thing, is it?
This is not Talisker.
So when you ask us where we can recommend, we will always give you advice on the best experiences, because you could buy a Talisker anywhere. You could buy a Lagavulin bloody tent anywhere, or a Lafroig tent anywhere.
Amanda,
but it's the experience that you're going to get.
Amanda, there is a Lafroig 10 out now, which is cask strength. If you can try and get that, that is the bee's knees. That is
the thing is, like, whiskey is very expensive. And this is the reason why we are so adamant about what we do and where we go. You know, when Helmut was mentioning there about going to, even before we get to Islay, we stop off at different places like Auchentoshan. We'll always stop at Auchentoshan because Auchentoshan are so good to our guests.
Yeah.
So you'll always get a good experience at Auchentoshan. You'll always be treated with a friendly Glasgow sort of friendliness that you would expect from anywhere on the Clyde.
Auchentoshan belongs on Islay.
Auchentoshan does belong.
I don't have to change their whiskey. That's not what it's about. It's just that their whole ethos and attitude is one from Islay. Yeah. What Islay doesn't have, what other islands in Scotland, some of the Highlands have, is this sometimes this clash between we don't want tourists and we want tourists.
Yeah,
Islay doesn't suffer from that.
No.
It's not like Skye, a place like that, where there's part of the island's locals are like full on, please come over, and some of them are like, oh, please not, Islay doesn't have that problem. Islay is like, bring him in, we've got enough glasses for you.
And you will never have an experience like going to Islay. And I can't say it much, but even like Auchentoshan, even stopping in Inverary and stopping at Lochfine whiskies, and also the other guy.
How can we forget him? What's his name?
I forget his name. Anyway, he's in Inverary as well. He's fantastic.
The whiskey shop or something.
He's got
that's
2 German shepherds, and they are the nicest people. They'll give you the best experience of whiskey. They've got all the special old ones. So if you are a Macallan fan, if you are a Glenmorangie fan, you will most likely find it there, or anything else that you're really into. You can get that on the way. And then as we said, on the way to Islay. On Islay itself, we do have our favourites, but
those 2 dogs are the 2 dogs. Beautiful, and they're so friendly.
And they're so friendly.
They are like Yeah.
Because we've got a German Shepherd and she's sitting in the other room there. But
no, she's a little bit different.
She's not as friendly as they are to strangers. But no, it's just getting it out there. You know, if you are interested in whiskey, you know, coming to Scotland is not the easiest or the cheapest trip. And although it might seem like a lot of money, we will make sure at every point that you're getting value for that. So when you go to Laphroaig, the Distiller's Wares tour is £75 per person. It is not the cheapest tour. And they have got a more expensive one, but that would take a full day. And you just don't have that. But £75, what you get for your money is exceptional. You wouldn't get that anywhere else. And everybody that's come with us has absolutely walked away, even if they weren't the biggest Laphroaig
Those
fan.
are the two favorite tours: is the Distiller's Wares and the Warehouse, the tasting. Those are by miles. Not because the other distilleries don't have good tours. It's just that because the actual experience of how intimate they take you into the warehouses and let you taste from directly out of barrels and stuff, and you get the same experience actually in Glen Scotia and not Kilkerran. What's the other one? What's the other Campbellton one?
This is the one there.
That's right. Springbank. In Springbank. In Springbank, we were walking through. That's in Campbellton. We were walking from one end of the warehouse through to another one, and it's all dunnage. And basically, dunnage means there's lots of mold and crap everywhere, deliberately, not by a lack of care. But we came out of there and we literally had spider webs on our legs and mold and
and everybody was in their element. Everybody was in their element. The full group of whiskey, and we had one chap from Ireland, guys. He lives in Sweden now, but they were in their absolute element. And once they got to Oban, they were over it. They were like, it's not Springbank, is it?
Yeah, Oban. Sorry, they're not. The problem with them, with Oban and Talisker, is that they. I don't forgive them for it. They are in a tourist business, so they need to step up. But they have the problem that they have a huge influx because of their location and where they are. The ones on Skye, the ones on the west coast, the gateway to the islands. So the problem that they have is that they get a massive amount of tourists coming through the door. But because they're so accessible, people go to these distilleries who have no interest in whiskey. It's just part of their tour. And so they are influxed with people who have no knowledge, have got no interest, and they're doing a distillery for the sake of doing a distillery. But there's so many of them that the visitor centre has kind of gotten into a situation where I think they don't know how to deal with them properly. And I think that has caused them to make some bad decisions. So in essence, the people that really, I don't want to say matter, but the people who really go there because they are interested in whiskey and want to know more and really want to dig a bit deeper, they get the same experience as somebody who just came off, a 80-seater bus, for half an hour. And I think that's a major, major flaw in their operation.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. If you want to have a good distillery experience, I mean, you might be an Islay, you might be a Oban fan, and there's nothing wrong with their whiskey. And in fact, I can say that this problem with Oban is fairly recent. In fact, I wouldn't even say that it's the majority of the
2 years
the times. Well, even then, like, it's kind of hit and miss. It's like, I would say at least 70% of my experiences with Oban has been very positive at the distillery itself. But, folks, it only takes one. And it was a really important group for us. And they were so apathetic about people who were, I'll give you an example. On the island of Skye, the new distillery there, what's it called again? I've just lost it because we're on the wrong island.
Come on. Think.
They are my favourite as well.
They are my favourite now. We need
to this is so bad.
I got to get it before you've Googled it. Now it's like...
I've got a bloody t-shirt with their stuff on it.
Yeah.
2 seconds. How bad is that? This is what alcohol does to you.
Skye Distillery Tours. There's 2 bloody distilleries. Oh no, it's 3, and there's Ratsay as well.
Torraveg, guys. Torraveg Distillery on Skye are actually one of our absolute favourites. So they don't, as far as I'm aware, because we haven't been this year yet.
Not this year.
No,
sorry.
not this year. They haven't got their own whiskey yet, but you can still go and visit them. They opened their distillery just for our group.
Yeah.
They were closed that day, and they opened and they made us sandwiches.
And sandwiches, and they stayed open to make them some coffee and stuff.
They were, and I love them anyway. He's the nicest people who work there. It's a really beautiful site, actually really stunning. You've got a view over to Knock Castle. Really pretty, old distillery as well. You're in the old building.
The building was built with the stones that were part of the old castle.
Yes, correct.
Classic.
It's just one of those amazing places. And then Talisker.
Talisker said they're the only distillery on Skye.
That's my response to Talisker. So, sorry guys, if you're a Talisker fan, that's my opinion of Talisker right now. And it will remain that way because they have made my existence incredibly difficult.
Although they have got some good whiskies.
They've got some good whiskies, but
really nice stuff.
You know, I can buy their whiskey in a shop. I don't need to go to their distillery to buy it because I'm not going to get the experience, guys. You're not going to get the experience at Talisker. I'm really sorry for saying that, but when I'm on Skye and I've got a limited amount of time, I'm not going to waste that at Talisker anymore.
No.
I would rather go to Torraveg, which we do on the way, so you get an idea. You got great views over to Knock Castle.
Yeah.
You can even go over to the island of Ratsay and go to the Ratsay distillery. They're also fantastic. They've been really accommodating. And I think Talisker are one of those Diageo distilleries which have got a little bit complacent with having such a massive tourism boom. And I'm sorry for saying that, guys. Usually we don't like bad mouthing, but I think with our job, especially if we're trying to give you guys advice and you're looking to come with us and you want to know where to go and where not to go, or where to spend your time rather than another place, I think it's only fair that we give you the advice that we have. And
I think examples are fair. So the problem that we had with the big group that we were bringing them, but the attitude it was more clearly described by what happened once when I had a lady with me at Talisker who bought a 90-pound bottle or a cask strength.
Yeah.
And just before she left, she decided I'd like to taste what I just bought because she bought it for somebody else. And the guy just took her money and he said to her behind the counter, he said, if you want to taste it, you can go around to the bar and buy a dram.
That's unheard of.
That is unheard of.
That's actually unheard of. I mean,
they would have charged her for that dram £7. She just bought the bottle, right?
I think what needs to also, I mean, the one group we took there, this is a whiskey association. Some of the guys on the group were actually whiskey distributors. So they were a really good group to keep happy. Now, I think you should be treating everybody the same way anyway, regardless of who they are or what they are.
Yeah.
But the problem we had was we had organised, they wouldn't do anything special for the group anyway. They wanted to they were only going to do a standard tour.
But Oban did the same.
Well,
that's why they walked out of Oban.
And that's why they walked out of Oban. But the problem with Talisker was that the weather was really bad. And our group had to get safely to Tobermory, guys. Tobermory. They had to go from Skye to Tobermory. And that's just the time constraints of a group. So they had to go all the way from Torraveg, who'd opened specifically for them. So we had to phone Talisker and say, sorry, guys, this is really unfortunate. We can't come. Safety it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
And they said, we're not taking any more bookings from any tour group ever again. And I thought, we're like one of how many people that can't come
today? The weather was so bad that day. We had to miss it. The weather was so bad that that they were going to close the Sky Bridge, right?
Yeah,
That's how bad it was.
Yeah, it wasn't like just
they were
scenic
still giving us
sightseeing
tips.
weather.
It's like, come on, guys.
And it's just about being understanding sometimes about,
But this has become a negative conversation.
This is a negative conversation, but it is important, because this is why I want to quickly mention Tobermory, because Tobermory, like Torreveg, opened their distillery just for us. They did special tastings at Tobermory for our group at an unusual hour. So it wasn't their usual hour. They opened early. Fair enough, they couldn't taste anything until the end of their session. But they started it because they knew that the ferry, and then they had to go to open afterwards. Who wouldn't even give them a proper tour?
Yeah.
But this is why we do what we do.
But
and we say what we do.
then. Tobermory make amazing whiskey. They do the Lagavulin and the Tobermory. The Lagavulin is their peated version. Yeah. They have stopped production for a while because they put in new
thank you,
not mash tun, wash tons. But I think that's all done now, so they're back in production, I think. But their new make spirit. So new make spirit is the basically the pure alcohol that then goes into the barrels. Is one of the best that I've ever tasted. They are spectacular.
Still got some. Someone's just mentioned the Lefroy cap, and I just wanted to say again, I got this for free at the distillery because they printed "drink responsibly" wrong, which I still think is incredibly hilarious, because it says
because
enjoy.
They were drinking when
they were drinking when they wrote it at Lefroy. I guess it's like, seriously, you guys should actually sell that, but they're not allowed to. It says enjoy responsibly. Not responsibly, which I think is just the most amazing thing.
Maybe people on Islay just can't spell.
Maybe the people. So that's it there. So I was given a free cap from the guys at Islay at Lefroy a few years ago. Probably about 2 years ago now. That I got the cap. But anyway, so when you Amanda's like that, I would totally buy that hat. Totally. I'm going to start my own drink responsibly.
Yeah. And
like, if you're standing too close, you've not drank enough, kind of thing. Like, especially with social distancing, guys, you've got a whole new market there.
Yeah.
So we've been yapping for quite a long time now, and I think we should probably call it a night. But you can always watch these videos back in both Instagram. You can watch on the live. You can go into our story and watch what we've been discussing. It's been quite full.
Just want to ask Amanda.
Sorry?
Amanda, you say your husband has expensive taste when it comes to whiskey. Do you have some names there to drop?
I wish, Mum. My mum's basically making fun of me. She's saying waggling the tongue. Anyway, Ursula, yeah, Amanda, that's a really good idea, because it's a proper hat. Like, it was their proper caps. Like, I wonder if I'm allowed to do that. I mean, it's even got here.
Made in China.
Made in China.
China.
Sorry. Shh. That's my son's favourite thing.
Came from China.
Came from China. Some of you might get that joke.
I'll wait till you get back, Amanda.
We'll wait till you come back before we go. But
Oma, lekker.
Yeah, we're just drinking. We've not actually had much to drink, Mum.
Too much drink.
We've got a lot in our whiskey cabinet, but no, I hope you guys found that interesting, because it's more about trying to give as much advice as we can, so that when you do come back to Scotland, which we hope you all will, you'll probably make decisions whether you come with us or not. This is not about just talking about us and what we're doing. It's about trying to offer some advice to those who would rather, who can't maybe come with us, or maybe have to go on their own, or maybe can't afford taking a tour. So we're trying to do as much as we can during this time to give as much as we can back. So that's the point. And if you want to come with us, you always can. But I think it's quite important that we're all here to have a wee blether. And maybe I will auction my hat off. Helmut, you've got, how many things can we auction?
Ursula, this is what I'm drinking.
Ursula, so Ursula was on Ursula's been coming with me, gosh, for the past 3 years now. Ursula came with me on our first Outland special guest tour way back in 2017. Then Ursula was with us after that on the My Peak Challenge tour. Then Ursula was with me. When were you with me then again, Ursula? You were with me again in a private tour, wasn't it? We did a private tour somewhere, and I'm trying to remember where we were. And then last year we went to the Hebrides. In fact, May we also went out on a tour, and then we went to the Hebrides. So I mentioned to Ursula that we will be doing an Islay tour soon, a special guest Islay tour, which will be similar to what we did in on the Hebrides last year, and what we're going to be doing for the Hebrides.
I'll be the special guest because it's my island.
It's my island. No.
Amanda, so let me just make a wee comment here on your little list here. Lagavulin, Oban, Glenfiddich, Dalwhinnie, Dalmore, Balvenie, and one that was $1,000 open only for special occasions.
That's it.
So, firstly,
hi Tracy. Remember Tracy? How we took Tracy.
Hi Tracy. My main comment to that whole thing is that good for opening it, because if you buy a whiskey, no matter how expensive it is, it is made for one purpose, one purpose only.
No, for selling.
Pop it, drink it with special people.
No.
Do you know which one that was? That would be interesting to know. But I agree with the whole list. Oban 14. It's funny how many.
Is it the Balvenie that you like? Is it the Balvenie? You're not a fan of Balvenie.
Is Amanda from America?
Amanda, you are from America.
It's very common that Americans love the Oban 14. It is a very common thing.
That was it, Ursula. I remember now. I took you guys from Birmingham to Aviemore, and then from Aviemore to Skye.
What's going on?
In a day.
What have I done?
I remember that. That was great. And we stayed, where did we stay again? We stayed at the inn there on Skye, the oldest inn. Oh God,
what's your Oma talking about? Sorry, my Oma.
She's mentioning, because there must be a lag, so she's coming in. We should talk more positively. My mum's giving me pointers on her.
Also, Amanda, verstehst du mein Deutsch dann?
Wir können Deutsch sprechen jetzt.
Yeah, the
Stein, and that was at Ursula. That was amazing though, wasn't it? Now, that's a typical middle of the nowhere Skye place, right? So it's the oldest. It still gets lots of tourists. You get there, the guy's about 90, and you get there, and there would have been 5. Was there 5 of it? 6 of us in total anyway, I think. And we're all needing to get up the stairs in this really creaky old little inn. And the guy looks and he goes, I'm not going to help you with your bags. So we're like, they were just in Birmingham for like a weekend. They were going to be in Scotland for another 2 weeks. So they've got these massive bags trying to get them up and down the wee staircase. But it was part of the experience. They were actually really good. He was just too old. He couldn't carry them up.
I must say that maybe you should have the husbands pack the bags, and maybe they wouldn't be so big, full and heavy.
Rubbish.
Like a wee rucksack. Some
rubbish.
Some undies, some jackets, some pants, and you're done.
Rubbish. And that's when my phone broke, Ursula. Do you remember? I was driving about and I was so paranoid because I used my phone as a alarm clock and everything, and my phone just died. And I was having to try and plug in my laptop and try to think if this is going to do me. And anyway, it was a very interesting experience. That's right. I dropped you guys off at Fort William. I remember I dropped you off at the Ben Nevis hotel. Yes, I remember now. I remember the story. So no, I think that will be us for tonight. I just want to mention that in 2 days, so on the 16th, it's currently, well, for most of you, it's still the 14th. On the 16th is the anniversary of Culloden. So I'll be doing a special chat on Culloden on Wednesday. Same time tomorrow, I might then do the wee story, the kids' story, for you all. And if you have any questions, Helmut and I are going to start doing more specific chats together. So if you are interested in whiskey,
that's true, Tom.
Tom's just come in and said the husband's luggage is a lot heavier coming back from Scotland. It's very true. So
because of all the stuff the wife bought, right?
Yeah, because of all the stuff the wife bought. No, that's terrible. So we're going to do. I'm thinking about, because guys, we're not earning a living at the moment. We're kind of just going through things. So we're trying to think of ways to add value to you and hopefully maybe make, if anything, a small income. So we're thinking about doing some more dedicated subscriptions where you can join in a specific chat. So just for example, if it's an ancestry thing and you want to do something a bit more in depth personally, I can have a chat directly with you and we can probably get through quite a lot together. Just little things like that. So I'm thinking about, instead of just saying, hey guys, try and give me money, the concept is more to give you guys value. So if you're interested in anything at all, please do get in touch and we can have a chat and see what we can do and how we can work together and still be here next year, which is quite important. But in Helmut, obviously, we've just been contacted by another whiskey group, and we're thinking about doing more whiskey videos and something that's a bit more specific. So if you are into tastings and things, obviously Helmut's your man here.
We've got a lovely selection. That Amanda, yes, that would be great. I've got a nice little selection of interesting things. I'm sure your husband,
50-year-old of something.
Maybe not. Yeah, you never know. But absolutely.
So basically, is it easier to call or email? Email at the moment is still probably the easiest. It's probably easier for you as well, Amanda. So our email is nice and easy. It's just info@slangescotland.com. You can catch us there and we can have a wee chat. But we'll be doing other sort of collaborations as well moving forward, hopefully to kind of give you guys something else to tune into than just myself or just the two of us. Hopefully we'll give you something of interest every single night. And then obviously with the collaborations moving forward, hopefully there'll be something that we can give you of value, because that's what this is all about. I will continue to do these videos though every night for the foreseeable for free. There's no fee that I'm going to be asking for what we're doing at the moment, just like slightly side projects. So if you're interested in working with us or sponsoring us in some way, we wouldn't do that for nothing. So that's basically the chat. So Helmut, anything else you'd like to add there?
No, it's all good.
All good. So thank you everybody for watching. Again, you can watch this back. I know it's been nearly 2 hours, 3 minutes off 2 hours, just of us talking about Islay. I told you it was going to be a good one. It was my last drink for the next 16 weeks. So hopefully it was a good one for you, and we are going to go to our bed. Or maybe we're going to watch a sneaky episode of Outlander because we haven't seen it yet. Or maybe, no, Helmut's like that. No,
it's like, thanks, Amanda.
So good night all. Have a very safe one, and we will, at least I will see you tomorrow. I don't know if Helmut will be joining me again. He's fairly antisocial at the best of times, aren't you, honey?
No, not.
But we'll see you tomorrow, most likely reading a children's storybook. So if you've got kids, do give, even if you're not able to watch it live, do look out for it. I'll be doing it about the same time as tonight. 10 o'clock seems to work for most people. And then on Wednesday night, I'll be doing my Culloden chat to mark the anniversary of Culloden. So that's pretty much it. So thank you, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Love you lots. Bye.
Gute Nacht. Gute Nacht.
Gute Nacht. Yeah. Sorry. Just end live video. That's it.